You know it's going to be one of those days when you're looking for your phone charger in your wife's purse, and instead find a bottle of premium personal lubricant that definitely wasn't purchased for your benefit. Next to it, a box of protection, the expensive kind she always claimed, gave her a rash. I'm Zach Pierce, 35, and I fix computers for small businesses here in Portland, Oregon. My wife Nicole works as a marketing coordinator for Bellingham and Associates, a mid-tier law firm downtown. We've been married 5 years, and she's always been the ambitious type, always talking about upgrading our lifestyle, and how my IT support salary wasn't cutting it for her vision of success. Standing in our kitchen that Tuesday morning, holding evidence of my wife's extracurricular activities, I felt something cold and methodical settle in my chest. Most guys would storm into their wife's office, make a scene, demand explanations. But I've always been the systematic type, the guy who documents every bug before fixing it, who reads error logs line by line until the pattern emerges. So, instead of confronting Nicole, I got curious. That evening, while she was in the shower complaining about her stressful day and how demanding her boss had become lately, I did what any IT guy would do. I checked her cloud backup. What I found was worse than the physical evidence. Screenshots of Reddit posts from our dead bedrooms where she'd been complaining about our marriage for 4 months. Posts with titles like, "Husband more interested in computers than me," and "How do you revive a dead bedroom when your partner is emotionally unavailable?" The timestamps showed she'd been active on that subreddit since January, posting almost weekly about our relationship. But the comments were what really got me. Nicole responding to advice with gems like, "You're right, I deserve better. I've actually been talking to someone at work who really sees me for who I am." And my personal favorite, "My husband thinks romance is installing antivirus software on my laptop. Last week he spent 3 hours optimizing my startup programs as a surprise." I screenshot everything. Every post, every comment, every laugh-crying emoji she used while mocking our marriage to strangers on the internet. The metadata showed she'd made most of these posts during her lunch breaks, sometimes from the office Wi-Fi network I'd helped her firm set up last year. The irony wasn't lost on me. Nicole emerged from the bathroom wrapped in a towel, looking like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. Her hair was still damp, and she had that post-shower glow that used to make my heart skip. Now, it just reminded me of how she'd been glowing differently lately, in ways that had nothing to do with our bathroom routine. "How was your day, honey?" she asked, settling into her usual spot on the couch with her phone already in hand. "Same old routine," I replied, watching her face for any sign of guilt. Nothing. She could have won. Oscars for that performance? Fixed the Morrison account's email server, updated security patches for 3 different clients, the usual Tuesday chaos. She nodded absently, already scrolling through Instagram. "That's nice, babe. I'm glad your work is going well." Over dinner, she mentioned working late again. "Big client presentation coming up. Mason wants the whole marketing team to pull an all-nighter at that conference center downtown. We're competing against 2 other firms for this contract, so it's all hands on deck." Mason Castellanos, senior partner at her firm, distinguished Silver Fox type, divorced about 2 years ago, drives a Tesla Model S, and thinks his law degree makes him God's gift to married women. I'd met him exactly once, at the firm's holiday party last December. He'd spent 15 minutes explaining to me why Apple products were superior to PC, completely ignoring the fact that I make my living fixing both platforms. "Which conference center?" I asked casually, twirling pasta around my fork with practiced indifference. "The DoubleTree by the river. You know, the one with the fancy business suites and the conference rooms that can be rented by the hour." She paused, realizing how that sounded. "I mean, for legitimate business meetings, obviously. The DoubleTree, where business travelers stay when they're trying to impress clients and where locals go when they need a discreet location for activities that can't happen at home or office. I'd actually helped install their conference room AV system 2 years ago. Nice place, but not exactly where you'd expect a law firm to hold an all-night strategy session when they have a perfectly good conference room at their own office." "Sounds like a big opportunity," I said, maintaining the supportive husband routine. "What time should I expect you home?" "Probably not until after midnight. Maybe we'll just grab breakfast before heading to the office tomorrow morning. You know how these things go when Mason gets focused on a project." I knew exactly how these things went, but probably not in the way Nicole intended. That night, while Nicole slept peacefully beside me, probably dreaming about her upcoming business meeting, I made my preparations. A small AirTag went under her car seat, nestled between the cushions where she'd never think to look. Modern technology is beautiful when you know how to use it properly. The Find My app would give me real-time location data, and the battery would last for months. I also set up automated screenshots of her phone's backup data. Every text, every app notification, every photo would be documented and time-stamped. If she was going to play games with our marriage, I wanted a complete record of the gameplay. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with a location alert at exactly 2:17 p.m. on a Thursday. Nicole's car was parked at the DoubleTree during what she'd claimed was a client strategy session downtown at the firm's office. I grabbed my laptop bag, told my current client I had an emergency service call, and drove over. I parked behind a food truck with a clear view of the hotel entrance, opened my laptop, and pretended to work on code while actually watching the door. The beauty of being an IT guy is that people expect you to be staring at screens in random locations. Nobody questions a man with a laptop and a serious expression. 28 minutes later, Nicole emerged from the hotel entrance, adjusting her hair and smoothing down the black dress I'd bought her for our 5th anniversary. Her lipstick was freshly applied, but her hair had that telltale slightly mussed look that no amount of bathroom touch-ups could completely fix. Behind her, maintaining a careful distance but clearly together, walked Mason Castellanos himself. He straightened his tie with the satisfied smirk of a man who just scored a touchdown in overtime. They embraced near the valet stand, and it wasn't the professional handshake you'd expect between colleagues after a productive business meeting. This was the kind of kiss that left lipstick on his collar and my marriage in ruins. Nicole was wearing the red lingerie set I could see peeking out from under her dress, the same set she'd claimed was too uncomfortable for regular wear and had been gathering dust in our dresser drawer for 8 months. Apparently, it was perfectly comfortable for special occasions that didn't involve her husband. My phone camera captured everything through the laptop's webcam reflection trick I'd learned from security installations. Timestamps, GPS coordinates, their faces clear as day in 4K resolution. But photos weren't enough. I needed the full performance, complete with audio and context. The following week, I called in sick and established proper surveillance. Nothing dramatic or illegal, just a patient IT professional with binoculars, a thermos of coffee, and the kind of systematic approach I'd use to diagnose a network issue. Every Tuesday and Thursday, same routine. Nicole would text me about overtime, client emergencies, or urgent projects requiring after-hours collaboration. Then she'd meet Mason at the DoubleTree. I documented their pattern meticulously. Arrival times, departure intervals, room numbers, even the valet parking patterns. Mason always arrived first, usually checking in around 1:30 p.m. Nicole would show up 20 minutes later, never using the main entrance, but slipping in through the side door near the restaurant. They'd stay exactly 2 hours, then leave separately with a 15-minute gap. On the third Thursday of my surveillance operation, I booked room 311, directly below their usual spot in 411. The DoubleTree might look fancy with its marble lobby and artisanal coffee bar, but the walls were thin enough to hear every word of their post-coital conversation. Her husband's completely clueless. Mason's voice drifted down through the ceiling with crystal clarity. Nicole says he spends more time with computers than with her. Poor bastard probably thinks romance is troubleshooting her Wi-Fi password. Nicole's laugh was like fingernails on a chalkboard, high and artificial, in a way I'd never heard before. Zach's sweet, really he is, but he's so predictable. Boring, if I'm being honest. You know what excitement he brought to our marriage last month? A new password manager. He spent an entire Saturday setting up 2-factor authentication on all my accounts and called it relationship security. What he doesn't know won't hurt him, Mason chuckled, and I could hear the sound of ice clinking in what was probably an expensive bottle of wine they had ordered from room service. Besides, you deserve someone who appreciates your ambition. That marketing campaign you designed for the Henderson account was brilliant. You're wasted in that coordinator position. You really think so? I've been thinking about applying for the senior marketing manager role when it opens up next quarter. With my recommendation, it's practically guaranteed. You've got everything it takes, Nicole. Intelligence, creativity, and... The conversation dissolved into sounds I didn't need to document. That's where Mason was wrong about what I didn't know, not hurting him. For the next hour, I listened to them systematically dismantle my character, my career, my appearance, even my choice in breakfast cereal. Every insult was another nail in their respective coffins. Every laugh another piece of evidence for the case I was building. Nicole complained about my tendency to explain how technology worked, instead of just fixing things silently. Mason shared war stories about other, boring husbands he'd encountered in his legal career, rating them on a scale of pathetic to pitiable. When they finally left, Mason strutting like a peacock in his $1,000 suit, Nicole practically glowing with post-affair endorphins, I made my move to the hotel business center. Their keycard access logs were stored in a system I'd actually helped upgrade last year. A few strategic queries later, I had 4 months of entry data proving their pattern of meetings. But I didn't touch his Tesla in the parking lot, didn't slash tires or key paint jobs. I had bigger, more elegant plans brewing. Nicole came home that evening, complaining about stomach cramps and mysterious digestive issues. "I think I ate something bad at lunch," she groaned, making her 4th trip to the bathroom in 30 minutes. "Maybe that sushi place near the office has hygiene problems." "Poor baby," I said, offering her ginger ale and crackers. "Maybe you should take it easy tomorrow. Food poisoning can last for days." "I can't miss work tomorrow. We have that big presentation for the Morrison account, and Mason is counting on my input for the marketing strategy. I'm sure he'll understand if you're not feeling well. Health comes first, right?" The next morning, my poker buddy Brad called with interesting news. He works security at the DoubleTree and has access to incident reports that most people never see. "Dude, you'll never believe what happened to that hotshot lawyer yesterday," Brad whispered into the phone like he was sharing state secrets. "That Mason guy who drives the white Tesla had some kind of medical emergency during his power lunch at the restaurant downstairs. Explosive digestive issues right there in the middle of the main dining room during peak business hours. I nearly choked on my coffee, fighting to keep my voice neutral. No kidding? That sounds awful. Word from the restaurant staff is they had to call paramedics. Guy was doubled over, sweating bullets, completely incoherent. They're saying it might have been food poisoning, but the timing was brutal. He was meeting with potential clients from some big corporate account. Apparently, they walked out when he started projectile vomiting into the breadbasket. That's terrible timing for a business lunch. Gets worse. Someone filmed it on their phone before hotel security could stop them. It's already making rounds on local Twitter. Nothing quite like watching a pompous lawyer lose his dignity along with his lunch. The hashtag, #WashLunchGoneWrong, is trending in Portland. I hung up and allowed myself a small smile. Phase 1 of my master plan was working perfectly, even though I hadn't implemented any of the really creative elements yet. 2 weeks later, Nicole came home pale and shaking, like she'd seen a ghost in broad daylight. Her hands trembled as she set her purse down on our kitchen counter, the same purse where I'd first discovered her secret supplies. She sat me down at our kitchen table, reaching for my hands with fingers that felt cold and clammy. "Zach, we need to talk," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the hum of our refrigerator. "Something terrible happened today." I felt my heart rate spike with anticipation, but kept my expression carefully neutral, the same face I wore when clients described their computer problems. "What kind of something?" "There was an incident at the hotel today." Her voice cracked on the word incident, like it physically hurt to say it. "Mason and I were having our quarterly marketing strategy review, and something went horribly wrong." "What kind of wrong?" I asked, though I already knew exactly what kind of wrong we were talking about. Nicole's face crumpled like wet paper. "We both ended up in the emergency room. There was some kind of chemical reaction. We're both covered in this bright green substance that won't wash off no matter what we try. It burns, Zach. It burns everywhere it touched." I had to bite the inside of my cheek hard enough to taste copper to keep from grinning. "Chemical reaction? That sounds serious. What did the doctors say?" "They said it looks like industrial dye mixed with some kind of irritant compound. The emergency room staff had never seen anything like it. Mason thinks someone deliberately sabotaged us. He wants to call the police, maybe hire a private investigator to figure out who would do something so malicious." "That's absolutely terrible," I said, mustering all the concern I could fake while mentally celebrating the perfect execution of my chemistry experiment. Are you seriously injured? Do you need additional medical attention? She shook her head, green-tinged tears streaming down her cheeks. I already spent 4 hours at the hospital. They gave me prescription cream for the burning sensation, but the green staining, the dermatologist said it might take 3 to 4 weeks to fade completely. Maybe longer, depending on how deep it penetrated. That evening, while Nicole soaked in an oatmeal bath upstairs, trying to ease the irritation and scrub away the evidence of her poor life choices, I received a call from Brad, my poker buddy who works security at the DoubleTree. "Zach, man, you've got to hear this," Brad whispered into his phone like he was sharing classified information. "We had the absolute craziest incident today. 2 people in room 411 had some kind of medical emergency that required hazmat protocols. Paramedics said they'd never encountered anything like it in 20 years of emergency response." "That sounds intense," I replied, keeping my voice carefully neutral while pouring myself a celebratory beer. "What happened?" Both victims were covered head to toe in this brilliant green substance, screaming about burning sensations everywhere the chemical contacted skin. But here's the really crazy part, Zach. It happened during what was obviously an affair. High-powered lawyer guy and a married woman, both trying to explain to paramedics why they were in a hotel room together, covered in mystery chemicals, wearing practically nothing. That does sound embarrassing for everyone involved. Embarrassing doesn't even begin to cover the scope of this disaster. Someone with a phone filmed the whole emergency response through the window. The entire incident is going viral on TikTok and Instagram. Green lovers caught in chemical romance has been trending for 6 hours straight. The hashtag #WatchGreengate is exploding across every social media platform. I hung up and allowed myself a moment of pure satisfaction. Phase 2 was exceeding my wildest expectations. The next morning, Nicole emerged from our bedroom looking like a radioactive Christmas decoration. The green dye had settled into her skin overnight, creating a mottled camouflage pattern that no amount of makeup could hope to conceal. Her eyes were still red and swollen from the pepper spray residue, giving her the appearance of someone who'd been crying for hours. "I can't possibly go to work looking like this," she wailed, staring at her reflection in our hallway mirror with undisguised horror. "Everyone will see. Everyone will ask questions I can't answer honestly." "Maybe you should call in sick for a few days," I suggested helpfully. "Tell them you had a severe allergic reaction to something. That's technically true, isn't it?" My phone rang before she could answer. Mason's name flashed on the screen, and Nicole lunged for it with desperate intensity, but I answered first with practiced calm. "Zach, this is Mason Castellanos from Nicole's firm," he said, his voice hoarse and scratchy, probably from hours of screaming during the chemical exposure. "We need to have a very serious conversation. There's been a deliberate attack involving your wife." "Oh," I replied with perfectly calibrated innocence. "What kind of attack? Is Nicole in danger?" "Someone deliberately sabotaged us yesterday, poisoned us with some kind of chemical weapon. This was a calculated assault, and I have strong reason to believe you might be directly involved in orchestrating it." Nicole was frantically shaking her head, mouthing, "Don't say anything," while making slashing gestures across her throat. "That's an extremely serious accusation, Mr. Castellanos," I said with measured calm. "Are you saying someone deliberately tried to harm my wife? Because if that's true, I'm very concerned for her safety." "Your wife and I were conducting legitimate business yesterday when we were both exposed to what can only be described as a chemical weapon. We're talking about potential assault and battery charges here, possibly even attempted murder, depending on what that substance actually was." "Business?" I let the word hang in the air like a question mark made of steel. "What kind of business requires you to be in a hotel room together during regular office hours, Mr. Castellanos?" The silence on the other end stretched long enough for me to count to 15. "I think you know exactly what I'm talking about," Mason finally said, his lawyer instincts kicking in about 3 sentences too late. "Actually, I have no idea what you're talking about," I replied with cheerful confusion. "But I'd be absolutely delighted to discuss it further. Maybe we should meet somewhere public, with plenty of witnesses present. I'm sure my divorce attorney would love to hear about the business you've been conducting with my wife." "Your divorce attorney?" Mason's voice cracked like a teenager's. "Oh yes, absolutely. See, I've been documenting some fascinating patterns in Nicole's behavior lately. Unexplained absences, mysterious purchases, hotel receipts, Reddit posts complaining about our marriage and mocking my character. I'm sure it's all perfectly innocent, but in situations involving potential assault charges, it's essential to have proper legal representation. The line went quiet except for Mason's increasingly labored breathing. "I'm hanging up now," he said finally, his lawyer training finally overriding his panic. "But this conversation isn't finished." "No," I agreed with genuine enthusiasm. "I don't think it is either." After I disconnected, Nicole stared at me with a mixture of absolute horror and dawning realization that her carefully constructed world was collapsing in real time. "You did this," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You knew about us. You planned this entire thing." "Knew about what?" I asked with practiced innocence, enjoying every second of her psychological unraveling. "Don't play stupid, Zach. You sabotaged us somehow. You put something dangerous in the—" She couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't bring herself to admit what supplies had been compromised. "I put something in what, Nicole? Your work materials? Your business supplies?" I was enjoying this revelation far more than I probably should have. "Or are you talking about the personal lubricant I discovered in your purse? The same purse where I was looking for my phone charger? The bottle sitting next to that box of protection you supposedly can't use because of allergic reactions?" Her face crumpled completely. "It's not what you think it is. Because what I think is that my wife has been conducting a 4-month affair with her boss, systematically lying to my face, posting about it on Reddit for strangers to mock our marriage, and using our joint credit card to pay for hotel rooms where she can laugh about my inadequacies with her lover. That's not entirely. Should we review your Reddit post history together? Or maybe examine the screenshots I took of your just dead bedrooms comments where you called me boring, predictable, and emotionally unavailable. We could also discuss the AirTag location data, showing your car parked at the DoubleTree every Tuesday and Thursday for the past month." Nicole sank into a kitchen chair like her strings had been cut, the green dye on her skin making her look like a defeated alien invader. "How long have you known?" she asked in a voice barely above a whisper. Long enough to get extremely creative with my response. The divorce papers were filed the following Monday morning. Nicole didn't contest a single item because she couldn't afford legal representation and had absolutely no moral ground to stand on. I kept the house, the savings account, both cars, and my dignity intact. She kept her student loans, credit card debt, and a reputation that would follow her around Portland for years. Mason resigned from Bellingham & Associates before the partners could terminate him with cause. Word spread quickly that the Oregon Bar Association had opened an investigation into a pattern of inappropriate relationships with subordinate employees. The viral Greengate video didn't help his professional reputation survive the scrutiny. 3 months later, I was sitting at Murphy's Tavern with my poker buddies, watching a Trailblazers game and enjoying the first genuinely peaceful evening I'd experienced in over a year. "Ever wonder what happened to that lawyer Mason?" Brad asked, nursing his beer and stealing glances at the basketball score. "Not really," I replied honestly, surprising myself with how little I actually cared about his fate. "Don't waste mental energy on it. Heard through hotel industry. Contacts he's doing insurance law somewhere in Arizona now. Ambulance chaser stuff. Workers' comp claims. Quite a spectacular come-down from corporate litigation and senior partnership tracks." I nodded, filing that information away, but feeling nothing resembling satisfaction or revenge. It was just data, like debugging code. What about Nicole? What about her? Heard she's working at that call center in Tigard now, handling customer service complaints for some telecommunications company. Living in one of those apartment complexes with paper-thin walls and neighbors who blast music until 3 a.m. I shrugged with genuine indifference. People make choices. People live with consequences. "You did what any reasonable person would do," Brad said quietly, raising his beer in a small salute. "I did what they forced me to do," I corrected him. "They wrote the rules of engagement. I just used their own playbook against them more effectively than they anticipated." My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number that I immediately recognized. "Zach, this is Nicole. I know you probably don't want to hear from me ever again, but I need you to understand something important. I realize now what I lost when I lost you. Mason was never going to leave his established world for me. He was never going to choose me over his professional reputation or social standing. I threw away 5 years of marriage for 4 months of lies and fantasy. I know you'll never forgive me, and I don't deserve forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that I finally understand what I had, what I destroyed with my selfishness. I hope you find someone who appreciates you the way I should have from the beginning. I deleted the message without responding or feeling any emotional reaction whatsoever. Last week, I posted the complete story on R Pro Revenge with full documentation and timestamps. 18,000 upvotes and counting, with comments that made me laugh out loud. This guy turned adultery into performance art. Chemistry degree or IT background. Someone nominate this man for a Nobel Prize in creative justice. Some people might argue I went too far, that turning someone permanently green and systematically destroying their career was excessive punishment for a standard affair. But those critics didn't spend months being systematically lied to, mocked, and emotionally humiliated. They didn't discover evidence of betrayal while looking for basic household items. They didn't listen to their spouse laughing about their inadequacies with their lover through hotel room ceilings. I gave Nicole and Mason exactly what they gave me, a comprehensive masterclass in consequences. The only significant difference was that mine came with a dash of brilliant green dye for permanent emphasis. And honestly, I haven't lost a single minute of sleep over any of it. The best part is that every time someone in Portland sees bright green anything, they remember ZZ Skr Greengate and chuckle. Nicole and Mason became a cautionary tale, a reminder that in our social media age, secrets don't stay secret, and humiliation can go viral instantly. Meanwhile, I've got my house, my peace of mind, and a reputation as the guy who turned adultery into performance art. Not everyone gets to become a local legend through their divorce story. Some people settle for closure. I went for color, and brilliant green was exactly the right choice.